On That Dead Body Show, we talk about death and murder, and at times, we may use explicit language.
Hi guys, so we're a little late getting this out. I think we're just going to go ahead and change our days from Thursday to Friday.
Seems to work out easier that way.
Yeah, between a new middle schooler and a football schedule that's hectic at least the first month, I think we'll be better off putting them out on Fridays.
The goth hippie is like you.
Okay, but how can that be in one person? That's my question.
I don't know. You are. It's like being a little bit hippie and a little bit hood.
I'm a little hippie hood goth.
You're a his hoppy goody hopper. I don't know. Fuck you.
Goth.
Goth hippie is what you are. You're a goth hippie. You're like, I love animals and nature, but fuck people and let's talk about death.
So what you're telling me is I'm Abby from...
You're a lot like Abby from here in Alabama, actually.
Oh, she is from Alabama, isn't she?
Yeah.
I forget about that.
Yeah.
Actually, if you go back to when I was a preschool teacher, they always called me the Abby of teachers. So maybe I really...
You're a goth hippie. You really are. Goth hippie.
Okay, so that's now a word.
Hashtag goth hippie and a copyright so nobody plagiarizes it.
Don't talk over me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just saying, while we're on the subject, and I'm feeling...
We're not really on the subject.
We're not, but we're going to be for like 2 whole seconds. When we talk over each other, it's because we're in tune and we're finish each other's sentences. So.
Because we're lovers like that. We love each other. It's because
You literally sounds like James Corden right now, and I can't undo this. Thanks. Are we going to do carpool karaoke?
Yes, sure. What song are we going to sing? You know which one I want to sing.
Well, seeing as how the case that we're covering today is all about a lovely family, we should turn the Brady Bunch into this.
No, let's not do that.
Here's a story.
No, you're gonna get a copyright struck. Shut the fuck up. You're gonna get us. Yes. I just called out a copyright and you're going to fucking steal someone else's copyright?
If I read it like this, then I can say I am just being professional.
Wait, what?
Going to hell. We're going to hell.
I know, but, that's where all my friends are going to be.
Legit. Today, guys, we're going to bring you the story of Audrey Marie Hilley. She was Alabama's Black Widow.
Black Widows are venomous, but this bitch was poisonous. She left dead bodies in her wake.
Many. Multiple. More than one. That's not even the crazy part of the story. The crazy part of the story actually happens after people figure it out.
So grab your popcorn and meet us back here for this crazy dumpster fire shitstorm of a story.
We are dead.
Welcome to episode 5.
You sound so fucking good.
Because I'm so fucking gonna stab you in your throat with this goddamn pen.
Welcome to... Don't say that. No, it's premeditated. You heard it, guys.
I would never stab you in the throat with my pen. This is my favorite pen.
Episode number 5. We made it. Yay.
Audrey Marie was born in June of 1933. She would go by Marie. I hate that name. You know that's Alia's name. Because I named her Alia Maria and he changed it to Alia Marie. Marie.
Big Osmonds fan, maybe?
No, he just did it to piss me off.
Oh.
Anyway. Marie was born to working class parents, and they really spoiled her a lot. Her mom couldn't really afford to stay at home like most moms that age, like in that age, could. So they gave her stuff. She was really, really spoiled with stuff.
That would carry over into her marriage at the age of 17 to Frank.
Who went into the Navy They actually got married while he was on leave. They had met when she was 12 and he was 16. Which...
It's only 4 years difference. Come on, there's more than that between your 40 and my 37. I've been 37 for many, many, many years.
The whole time we've been together. You've been 37.
Exactly.
But, I don't know, you're right, there's only 4 years difference, but for some reason, it sounds creepy when you say she was 12 and he was 16. Like...
Right, but they didn't start dating.
No. I'm just saying. But they kept going back to that point in several different articles I read. They pointed out that he knew...
Only 16.
I'm just saying, at 16 to know that the 12-year-old chick... But, I feel like she probably grew up. Was way more mature than her 12, so he probably felt like she was older. I don't know, whatever.
But they didn't marry until she was 17.
Like a month before she turned 18. But they met because her parents actually moved from Blue Mountain, Alabama, 6 whole minutes away to Anniston, Alabama.
I mean, come on, it's like moving from the burbs, like the edges of the city into the city.
Oh, I know, but it's crazy what 6 whole minutes, like a 6-mile drive can do, I guess. But everything I read said that there was such a big difference when she had moved from Blue Mountain to Anniston that once she got there, she saw that these people didn't have to, live paycheck to paycheck. She got to see the rich families.
Or the more well-to-do families.
Right. Yeah. Well, to her, I'm sure it was rich.
Probably upper middle class. I'm sure. I don't know that Blue Mountain would have been even middle class. Probably upper, lower, or lower middle, maybe. It just sounds Appalachian-y type. Really.
Actually, that's how it was described in a couple of things I read.
Yeah,
I heard banjos. So, they get married in 1951, and about 9 months later, she pops out Mike. Give or take. 1952-ish.
Right.
And then, 8 years later, which I can only assume at that point, there's an 8-year difference, because either she's not digging this whole mom thing, or he was still in the Navy, because it didn't really ever say when he got out.
That's a large spread.
Even for somebody who's in the military.
Especially for that time frame as well, since that's pretty much what women did at that time.
Marie seemed to really want money, not necessarily the husband or the kids to go with it. So while she worked and Frank worked,
she spent more money than they brought home combined.
A lot more.
And not on incidentals or household items, just on stuff.
Blowing money.
Yeah, blowing the hell out of money.
Looking back and reading all of the stuff, even in the 50s, I don't think that there was quite bipolar or manic, but I feel like Audrey probably was. Something along those lines, because she just blew money on just, like you said, stuff. She spoiled the kids with stuff like her parents did her.
But mostly left the children to be raised by Frank's mother.
So...
Well, we up to about... they'd been married for several years now, 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
About 75.
74 is when Frank starts getting sick.
Okay. And
he's sick. He's sick to his stomach, nauseated. Not vomiting a lot, but really bad stomach cramps. And he's kind of getting to where... he doesn't really want to go to work, but he knows he has to go to work because he doesn't even realize at this point how much money she's spending, but he knows he has to support his family.
Mike gets sick as well. It comes down with a little bit of a stomach flu, I think they called it. But miraculously, it cleared up when he left for seminary school with very little treatment. Right. Just kind of went away. Huh.
Magically delicious. So, they're having pretty bad money problems, and they're fighting, and he's still going to work. Well, one day, his stomach gets so bad, he's like, okay, no, I've got to go home. And when he gets home, he figures out exactly how she's been affording all her little extra stuff.
She's been hoeing herself pretty much to her bosses. She's been having sex with them for money. Multiple bosses.
And he doesn't even feel like he's got any room to say anything because he's so sick. So he just lets it slide. And he just keeps getting sicker and sicker. But
he does leave and go, I believe, to talk with Mike. I know he went to Georgia to talk to a minister. I believe it may have been his son, Mike.
Yeah, but he doesn't tell anybody how sick he is. At least there's nothing I can see where he told his minister or his son, even if it was the same person, that he was sick and how sick he was. You have to wonder if he had of.
So after all this being sick, though, they decide that he has, which I guess I should look that up. He has hepatitis, and they said everything said infectious hepatitis, which I'm guessing would be hepatitis B or C.
I'm actually not sure, right? Because the definitions have changed so much over the past 25 years that what they meant as hepatitis even then could be different. But in 1975, he tells his sister, I don't think I'm going to live. Of course, he's not, because that's why we're here. He's admitted to the hospital because his liver's shutting down, which they've again blamed on hepatitis. Right. So, they think, okay, he has hepatitis, he's not going to make it. And he dies on May 25th, 1975. Back then in 1975, she collects a $31,000 policy or several. I think it was several policies, but in today's money,
in insurance, she collects like $31,000 and like $100 some odd dollars.
Right, but in today's money, it's around $150,000.
Right. It's not a substantial sum, but it's not an unsubstantial sum.
So Frank is dead, and Marie's still blowing money. Like
she doesn't. They have an autopsy performed, and she's okay with that. They asked to perform an autopsy.
Yeah. She asked for it to be performed, and they say it's hepatitis.
And it had inflammation of several organs, including his lungs, liver, kidneys, I believe.
Yeah. And at this time, Mike and his wife come to live with Marie, and Carol and Marie's ailing mother, Lucille. Her dad had already died of cancer a few years earlier. So now Lucille, her mother's sick. Ailing. At this point, this is where the dumpster fire starts for me. There's several little small fires that break out, just enough to cause just enough damage to get little settlements.
Right, a fire that started at a dryer.
Yeah. I mean, just tiny little itsy-bitsy things to where...
But there was always insurance.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can see that she had just enough forethought to get the insurance on odd things that I guess back then people wouldn't notice. I guess now we notice because of true crime stuff. But I guess back then, everybody just thought it was that crazy lady.
I need some fire insurance on a sofa.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, she actually insures her mother-in-law's furniture only. Just the furniture, not the whole house. Just the furniture.
That would have cost too much.
I know, but I mean, like, were there not red flags? Anyway. So, while Mike and Terry live with them, Terry, Mike's wife, starts getting sick with stomach cramps and nausea. So much so...
But aren't those the same symptoms that Frank had? Why is no one putting this shit together?
That goes back to him not telling anybody he was sick. So, but I think Carol should have known that was the same thing that was happening. Even if Mike didn't know, I think Carol should have known, hey, that's just like my dad.
But then about 1978, Carol starts getting sick.
Right. Terry actually gets sick enough that she has at least one miscarriage. But all her symptoms go away when they move away. Which leads into yet another dumpster fire, because when they finally get enough to move away from her, their house is damaged in a fire just enough that they have to conveniently move in with Mike and Terry, and then vice versa. When Marie's house is fixed, then a fire happens at Mike and Terry's for them to have to move back in with her and Carol again. Like, I don't understand why nobody saw the sheer what the fuck of this woman. So, we're at 1978, and Carol starts getting sick on prom night, which I can only imagine as she gets taken to the ER on prom night that all the doctors thought she had been on drugs or drinking or something since she was complaining of nausea and vomiting. She would continue to get sicker over the next few months, and the only time it would clear up would be briefly when she managed to escape and move out on her own, and then Marie figured out a way to move in with her.
And she got sick again.
Yeah. At this point, Marie starts giving her actual injections, telling her she's given her Phenergan, and it's, well, not.
The doctors can find no reason that she is nauseated. They didn't do any tests for anything like heavy metals or anything.
Not at this point.
At this point. But they think it's in her head. They think that Carol it's a psychosomatic problem.
Which I don't understand once she got to the point where she was numb and she couldn't walk anymore.
It was the 70s. I mean,
I guess so. The doctors at Regional Medical Center have decided it's all in her head and send her to Caraway. When she's at Caraway...
Which is the Big Blue Star. It's no longer a hospital. It's an urban exploring area. But it was the Big Blue Star in Birmingham for a long time.
Even though she can no longer walk, they still think it's all in her head until she tells her friend that her mom's been secretly giving her shots that she's been sworn to secrecy about. And that friend tells a family member, and that family member calls the doctor.
And that doctor had recently either been to a conference or seen something about heavy metal poisoning.
Right. Well, he comes and he checks her out, and he sees the Aldridge Mees lines on her nails. And in this point, I don't understand, because he knows that Marie's been giving her these injections, but they tell Marie they suspect heavy metal poisoning. So...
Marie moves her.
Immediately.
From Caraway to UAB Hospital.
I don't understand why they told her. Because if somebody says, hey, this lady's giving her kid shots.
And we think she's being poisoned. Of course, it could have been water. Heavy metal poisoning in water in the 70s wasn't that big of a thing either.
Well, and not only that, I don't understand why Carol herself didn't say, gee golly, this is how my dad died. Gee golly.
Dad was sick, then Dad died. I'm sick. Uh-oh.
I mean, I'm sick with the same symptoms. While Terry lived with us, she was sick like this. Hello? At UAB, the doctors test her for heavy metal poisoning. They test her hair. And out in the hallway, Marie's getting arrested for not poisoning her daughter, but for bad checks.
And the tests do come back on the hair, and there's at the root 100 times the level that should be in the human body, which is very minuscule parts per million or whatever.
But the doctors don't tell the police that she's been poisoned. They wait for even more testing. They let her be arrested for the bad checks, and I would assume, because even back then you didn't want to talk bad about somebody, they wanted to wait till they had all their tests back before they told the police, hey, so she was giving her these shots and she's been poisoned, for sure.
But the tests concluded at the tip of her hair, which would have been the oldest hair, there was 0. There was minuscule, normal amounts of arsenic, because there's normal amounts of arsenic in your body, I would guess, right?
Yeah, there is normal.
I mean,
yeah.
Probably from the air we breathe. And the 70s in Birmingham were a hell of a time.
The lead paint y'all were eating.
Yeah, we were eating lead paint and
licking it.
And breathing clean exhaust from these coal furnaces around here. Well, not anymore, but
While Marie's sitting in jail for her bad check charges,
they decide to exhume Frank
and Lucille and his mom, Carrie.
Lucille was her mom.
Right. Lucille was her mom and Carrie was his mom. Frank was definitely murdered with arsenic. Like, there was no doubt.
Right. He had 10 to 100 times the amount of arsenic that he should have had.
Bless that man's heart. Now, Lucille and Carrie had traces of arsenic, but not fatal amounts. So, to me, what that says is she was just keeping them sick. You know, just giving them just enough to make them sick, to make them probably not even notice what the hell she was doing.
Right. So they get these tests back, and they're like, oh, this is kind of suspicious. And they call Birmingham and put a hold on her. She's there for bad checks, and they put a hold on her.
On October 9th, they come and actually formally arrest her for attempted murder on Carol and Frank's murder. And
in her belongings, I would guess, at the jail, they find a vial with traces of arsenic.
In her purse.
In her purse. In her, well, that would, yeah. They would take that from her at the jail. And
I would hope.
Well, so she wouldn't have
Even
been able to get rid of it, and they weren't, right. She was like, well, they're not even looking for this, so she wouldn't have hid it.
Right, because she had no idea. She thought she was just there for bad checks.
So they find a vial of arsenic in her purse, or a vial with traces of arsenic in her purse.
On November 9th, she somehow makes bond.
On the bad check charge, and they don't see the hold.
Allegedly.
That's what they call when you're in jail and another jail wants you afterwards. They put a hold on you.
They allegedly
didn't see it and let her go. But hey, she might have been fucking somebody. She seemed to fuck everybody else in this story.
You are not even lying. I bet if we went and took a poll, if these people were still alive, they would all just raise their hands.
So when she gets out of Birmingham jail, she goes and books a room at a hotel. Probably one of the local flop house motels.
Do you really think she would have let that happen? Being as bougie as she was, do you think she would have?
But she has no money, and the motels are. I mean, once you get inside, I guess they're okay.
Well,
it was the 70s, or what? This is like early 80. No, this is 79.
This is still 79.
79.
Because the shit show hadn't even started, even though it sounds like it has.
So November 9th, she's released, checks into a motel in Birmingham.
And then disappears. And there's a note found that says...
She may or may not have been
kidnapped.
Like, Marie's gone, and she may have been kidnapped.
Like, who the fuck writes this shit? Like,
we may want money for her return.
But maybe not. On November 19th...
And yeah, so she was gone.
Right, she was gone because she may have been kidnapped.
But 10 days later...
Her aunt's house gets broken into, and the only thing taken is clothes, an overnight case, and the car.
But a note was left.
It said, "Do not call police. We will burn you out if you do. We found what we wanted. We will not bother you again." So. I just don't even think I have words for that, because first of all, if I'm her family, which I think the aunt helped her, but...
Right, but she couldn't have said that.
Right. But if you're anybody, if you've been, investigating her at this point, saying that, they're gonna be burnt out if they call the police or whatever, like, that would just scream Marie Hilley wrote this shit to me.
So she's gone for months.
Were you talking over me again?
I'm so sorry. On January 11th, 1980, she is formally charged with her husband's murder, and is added to...
And her attempted murder for Carol.
And the attempted murder of her daughter, Carol. She is added to the FBI's most wanted list and is a fugitive.
And with any other story, this is where it would have ended. But wait, there's more.
Remember how I told you this was a dumpster fire train wreck? The car that she stole from her aunts was located in Georgia, but in the meantime, she has set up a new identity in Florida. She's now living there as Robbie Hannon.
And meets John Homan III.
John Homan III. How he sounds rich.
And I'm sure that's why she honed in on him. They date, get married. They date for only a few months, but they decide that they both just had so much tragedy in their life they don't want to wait to do anything, and just boom,
Right. She explained that her immediate her husband and
Her
kid
child died in a car crash.
And
She was just so sad.
And so they get married and moved to New Hampshire.
Yes.
I think she said she wanted to live there.
She wanted to see snow.
Right.
I want to see snow is code for get me the fuck out of here. I've done something really wrong in the South and now I need to see snow. Very clearly.
To the north.
Yes. Very clearly because...
Loves to travel now. Immediately.
Right now. Let's go.
Meet me at the airport.
I've already left you.
They're up there about a year in New Hampshire. She's working and her paperwork finally comes back and her social security number doesn't match and it doesn't come back right.
Right.
So her job says, hey, we need you to, it was really different back then. We didn't have the Homeland Security and
immediate verification and...
Right, all of that. It was like they would, pretty much wait until taxes and then,
right.
Hey, we don't have a social security number for this tax you've been paying.
Oops.
Need to verify.
At this point, she starts setting up her, I guess, exit stage left and tells John that she has some type of rare blood disorder and that she's going to have to go to Texas where the only treatment centers are.
But it's okay because she has a twin sister there that she can stay with.
Right. And he shouldn't come because she can deal with this on her own and he's already been through so much. Just stay here and keep the house okay for me. And
so she goes to stay with her sister, Terry Martin, in Texas. Her twin sister, Terry Martin, in Texas. And he gets a call one day from Terry Martin and says...
Robbie's dead.
Robbie died, and we donated her body to science, so...
They could figure out the blood disorder.
So there's nothing to ship back to you, and don't come here.
Don't come here because I'm coming there because that's what Robbie wanted.
So here's where Fire 1 starts.
Y'all, if somebody sat down to write this as a movie,
no one would fucking believe it. I mean, really, it's like truth is stranger than fiction because truth should fucking make sense.
And none of this whole entire story makes any sense.
So Terry shows up to meet John.
Right.
And it's actually Robbie.
Who's actually Marie.
Right. So Marie, posing as Robbie,
who's
died, is now posing as Terry, Robbie's twin sister. And she has, in the interim of the 3 months, lost 50 pounds, cut and bleached her hair blonde.
Yes.
So she shows up to meet John, and he's a dumbass, and he falls for her. And they get married.
Because that's what Robbie wanted. Now, you're a guy.
But he may have fallen for it, but not everyone did.
Well, my question, okay, so that's what I'm saying. You're a guy. You know me. You know things about me. Even everything down to the irritating things I do.
If you gained 300 pounds or lost 100 and some odd pounds.
Are you telling me you wouldn't know that was me?
I would know that was you.
That's what
You're like, no, my sister wants to stab you in your throat too.
With this pen.
With that pen, right. Not this pen, because this was my sister's favorite pen.
She changed small things, but I just can't see how he didn't know. Even as a young girl, when I saw the movie version of this, I think I even thought then, in whatever mindset I had, he's dumb. Or he knew.
Right. There is that possibility. So
and he's just oblivious?
He's oblivious. I mean, he was in on it. I mean, there's always that.
Well, yeah.
Where he knew it was Robbie, not Terry, and said, okay, well...
You're running from something clearly.
Right. But I don't know, that's a little stretch, but... pardon me.
How do you... Oh, God.
So, although he fell for it, none of the people that Robbie used to work with fell for it. And they were
because they go to her work.
And they were like, yeah, she wants to go there and meet the people that her sister,
told her so much about.
And they were like,
No.
Robbie, we know it's you. We know you're faking your death for some reason or other. We don't know why you're pulling this twin sister bullshit.
Because...
Here's Robbie, who's lived most everywhere. I guess I can't complain about you copywriting the Brady Bunch, which is really weird because Mike and Carol were her kids.
You know, I really wasn't thinking about that when I was singing that earlier. That's a little bit creepy, even for me.
Picture it. Picture a woman.
You know, for 2 seconds, I wasn't sure if you were going to be Sophia with Picture It Cicely or Rod Serling.
Cicely, 1945. I was doing Rod Serling.
I called it at the end.
Yeah, because she does Picture It. He says, picture a man.
Oh my God, if they had children.
Picture a man. Sicily, 1945.
I love Sophia. At any rate.
This dumbass falls for it. They don't. And
different things said that the lady who had actually taken the Social Security number and had confronted her about it not being correct is actually the one who called the police and said,
hey, so this bitch is faking her death. I don't know.
We don't know why.
But the police look at the obituary for Robbie, and they're like, they can't confirm that there's a death certificate or anything.
That she even existed.
Right.
And it turns out that the research place that she supposedly donated her body doesn't even exist. So
so she said, you got me. I'm not Terry. And they're like, we know, you're Robbie.
And she's like, just kidding, I'm not even Robbie. I'm Audrey Marie Hilley. Now, at this point...
I'm wanted for murder in Alabama.
No. She just said, I'm wanted in Alabama for bad checks. But, okay, so let's just think about this. She's in New Hampshire, where they say things like khakis. Okay, maybe not, because maybe that's just Jersey. But she's from Alabama, and you know she's got to be talking like this. And she's like, you're right, I'm Audrey Marie Hilley.
And at this time, she's wanted. She's on the FBI's most wanted list.
But she doesn't know that.
Right.
Because she doesn't even know she was tried.
So they go, oh, hey, we've all been looking for you. And they extradite her back to Alabama for the murder charge and the attempted murder charge.
Which this time they decided to get smart and put her on a $320,000 bail.
Right.
Bond, whatever.
And she of course, she goes to trial and is convicted.
Right. She gets life for Frank and 20 years for Carol.
And she goes to prison. And
in any other story, this would be the end. But wait.
She's in prison, and she's such a model prisoner. And it's the 80s, so she begins to get one-day furloughs. And she gets those, and she's always back on time. And she works herself up, and I guess she's such a model prisoner. And she, we keep letting her out, and she keeps coming back. They give her a 3-day furlough to meet John, who has moved to Alabama. He knows that she's not Robbie or Terry. He knows that she's Audrey Marie, and he knows that she killed her husband, but he still loves her. And he moves to Alabama, and she gets a 3-day furlough. She's going to spend the weekend with him at a hotel.
Bless his heart, he stood by her this whole time, and I can only hope that you would stand by me to this extent.
Well, I don't know. Are you going to screw me like she does him? So they're at the hotel, and I think, like in the movie you mentioned,
I think she says, I'm hungry.
But I believe in like the reports that I've read and some other material that he went to get her smokes and went to the store to get her a couple of things.
Right. Either way, she gets him out of the hotel room, and
he comes back and she's gone.
Oh, but there's a note.
But there's a note that says,
I'm not going back to prison. I'm leaving with Walter. Whoever the fuck Walter is, because we've not heard of a Walter up to this.
And it's an apology note. It says, I'm sorry, I can't go back to prison. I'm leaving with Walter or whatever. Now,
for those of you who are not from the South or Alabama, period, and don't know much about it, the summer is our dry, droughty, no rain. But in the wintertime, that's when everything is wet and soggy.
Unless it's a tornado.
Right, in January.
We get tornadoes a lot.
Y'all should all check out James Spann.
Like, it's pretty late at night, and it's probably 90 degrees outside. The humidity's probably in the 80s. Yay. And tomorrow it could be 65, 70 degrees.
In the morning, yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. But in the winter, it's usually around January, February. That's our wet times of the year here.
So it's February, and she's on the run, and there is no Walter. She
leaves him in Wetumpka, and 4 days later, in 30 degrees something weather and rain, she is actually found when a woman calls the police and says, "There's a strange woman sprawled out on my back porch." And it turns out to be her, 95 miles away.
Right, they had actually gotten other calls of a stranger wandering around in the rain, stumbling around aimlessly, and they were like, could you come? This person may be drunk or maybe incapacitated.
But it's cold as fuck. So could somebody come check on them?
Right, and they find her, and she says, "I'm Audrey Marie Hilley."
I don't know if she said, because they said she was delusional, so right. I don't know if they looked at her and they were like, "Hey y'all, this is Audrey Marie Hilley." Right.
But she's obviously suffering from exposure to the elements.
Right. But she's made it back to Blue Mountain. She went all the way home to Blue Mountain.
Right. Trying to make it, I believe, to her old home.
Right. Which
no longer, you don't live there anymore, baby.
And haven't. Even they left there to go to Anniston. So, I mean, what was she trying to do? Like, get back to her roots, literally?
They carry her to a hospital where she is diagnosed with acute hypothermia, I believe. Yeah, and as she's there in the hospital,
they try to get her warm.
They're warming her up and doing all the hypothermia. You have to warm them up, I believe, gradually,
very slowly, yeah,
right? Or they'll lose phalanges. Smart person word for fingers.
He also calls things etage and
whatever. Okay, so
what's the other one? The credenza. The credenza. You and Virginia should hang out with her portico talk.
So she's there, acute hypothermia, and another symptom of acute hypothermia is cardiac arrest, and she dies there.
She's actually pronounced at 5:06 p.m.
Going back and looking at everything, she may have been the poisoner of her mother and mother-in-law.
Right. And it said that her dad actually died of cancer, but in all of the stuff I was reading about this, arsenic is actually I'm not going to say this right, carcinogen. Did I say it right? Which could have led to them having cancer and being sick. So that would be, again, this is allegedly her mom, her mother-in-law, maybe her dad, but I mean, maybe he really just did have cancer.
An 11-year-old friend of Carol's died after having been there at the house. I believe her name was Sonia Marcel Gibson. Yes, 11 years old, and she didn't have high levels of arsenic. But I mean, come on, I know correlation isn't causation, but if this lady gives this bitch killed a bunch of people and then all of a sudden this girl had been at their house and dies, I think maybe guilty.
One of the other things that I read was that, and I didn't actually see this till the very end of the research, was that she actually followed very closely the Nanny Doss case, which was a female poisoner.
The giggling granny.
Yeah. Right. So I'm thinking that's where she got her ideas from.
Who was also from Alabama?
I'm pretty sure she was.
I believe the giggling granny is from Alabama. We might do an Alabama. I have another Alabama killer that I would like to do, but that's a secret, and I'm not letting it out right now. It is a guy, a male. I know. Right. All kinds of other. I believe that some of the insurance agents who came to examine,
police investigators,
and the police investigators all experienced nausea or stomach problems, or some intestinal issues after having been there and had coffee, or pretty much anything to drink.
At one point, when she is going through all these tiny little fires, and she's called the police several times, and she's told them that she's getting harassing phone calls. So they kind of come and set up a bug, like to trace the phone calls, and not near a phone call comes in. But that's when she starts giving them the coffee, like, well, while you're here, just have some coffee with me.
Yeah, and so all of these people who had been there and been sick, someone did report it to the police, and they came and investigated. They said, I had coffee at her house, and I'm intensely ill now, and there's been a lot of reports of other people. So they go and they investigate, and nothing comes of it. And it's really strange. I mean, if you would think it's a small town, if there's
really
an invest, I mean, it's not that small. I think there's a military base there, but so if you come and investigate, hey, this person thinks they might have been poisoned, all these other people have been sick, and then her husband dies of nausea. Come on. It's not a huge fucking leap to think, hey, maybe we should investigate this a little bit further. I mean,
I think
when Frank had the same goddamn symptoms, come on.
Frank had the same symptoms. Mike's wife had the same symptoms. Carol was going to have the same symptoms. And at no point did anybody put any of this together. Either everybody was oblivious and suddenly wasn't a gossipy town, which you're not going to tell me didn't happen. People were talking. So I just do not understand how nobody called on to this. Was she just like that town's crazy person? Do you know what I'm saying, though? I mean, like, because, you know, everybody has that town person. They're like, you know, don't go over to so-and-so's house because of whatever reason. Was she that person? And, like, they just knew, like, don't go over to Aunt Betty's house because whatever. You can't tell me nobody put this together or nobody talked about her with her cheating, hoeing, shoplifting, crazy-ass stunts. She had to have been the talk of the town.
Right. So, there you have it. Alabama's poisonous Black Widow.
Dumpster fire.
Robbie Hannon, Terry Martin, Audrey Marie Hilley.
That's a bunch of hyphens.
That is. That was episode number 5, guys.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, really. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Do everything you can to help us out because it really helps us out.
I would like to say thank you to another friend who has helped us both, Nikki from Strictly Homicide. Between her and the girls that I said goddamn, they both helped us so much and made sure that we had support going into all of this. I can't tell you how nice it is to know that you're not being, I don't know, what's the word, that you're being encouraged and not pushed away by, you know, other podcasters. It's like a podcasting family. And that's actually a really nice feeling.
So join us here next week, family, and y'all bring the ice, okay? Bye now.
Bye.
Feel